Okay, so for your notes, table of values, we're looking at graphing lines using table of values. Sometimes table of values are called an XY chart because other teachers refer to it as XY chart. They can also call it table of values. Both names are fine. You have an equation and you have a chart. You need to fill it out. So the X values is what we start with. They're given to you. You start at +3 up top and work your way down to -3. Or you can go -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, and 3. Both ways are fine. I'm not going to complain whichever way you do it. You take the value for x, you substitute it into your equation, and so the x equals 3. Always use brackets when you're substituting. Y equals 9 minus 4, y equals 5. So the value of y is 5 when x equals 3. But then x changes. Now x equals 2. So we're going to substitute in the value of 2 into our equation. So we take the 2, we put it in there, and so we get 3 bracket, 2 bracket. So 3 times 2. What does that equal? 6 minus 2, so y equals 4. And so the y value now changes to 4. Why is it minus, whoa, what's going on? Minus 4, you guys. I can't believe you made me say 2. So the answer is 2. Okay. So what is y decreased by? 3. It's changed by 3. Okay. So let's try this again with the next one. So y, again, x changes, and we have to find the new y value. So now x changes to a value of 1. So we put that inside our brackets. A little bit of bed mass. What's our rate of change? 3, 3. Okay. Should we predict what the next one would be? What can you predict? What's your guess? -4. So now I want you to check that though, because we just don't want to leave it to chance. So 3 bracket, put in the value that x is to become, and you've set it 0. 0 is an awesome one because 0 times anything is 0. You're going to love 0. Oh, and you're right. We get -4. Now you could go ahead and do the math for the rest, but because it's all the x is repeating in a pattern, the same pattern, that, guess what? It's going to repeat here in the same pattern. So this will be negative what? This will be negative. This will be -13. Okay? So we have a pattern. We have a constant rate of change. And that's an important thing to recognize in our equation. Did you notice that the number 3 was right in front of the x? Interesting. Okay, so that can help you make up your equations later on. So what we're going to do now is we're going to graph it. So I'd like you to write this down. For graphing, what we do is we plot the points we just found. Write that down, please. I highlighted it. Okay. Now you don't have to write down the rest. So some things to think about. The graph should make a straight line through all the points. If a point is not on the line, there's a mistake. Go back and check your math. You probably made a math error. Don't make a line segment. A line segment is a small line from one point to the other. We have our points and we're going to go through them. Okay, all the way through the points. Don't stop until you hit the edge of your grid. Okay. So again, lines are long and they never stop. So what we can do is put arrows on there, okay, or have the line go from the edge of the grid to the edge of the grid. Because lines go on forever, forever, and ever, 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 and ever. They never stop. Forever, ever, 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 ever. So the other class, They had, their 4 points, and they went, oh, the line goes there. No, it doesn't. That's a line segment. Okay, make your lines long. So what you do to help yourself make a line, if you don't have graph paper, it's no big deal. Quickly take a piece of paper, fold it in half, so you have this device called a ruler, and then draw your axes. Okay, notice how I lined up my axes with one of the lines? That makes it easier. For my grid, do this. Do it. For my grid, I go in between the line, on the line. In between, on. In between, on. In between, on. I do the same thing for going down. Do it. Find a ruler or something that's straight, like a piece of paper. Fold it in half. Okay. Up and down's easy, because you have your lines to help. Left or right's hard. So for left or right, just try and do your best to keep them all the same distance apart, the same as the vertical lines. Okay. So what were some of these points that we had to graph? We had to graph 3, 5. So on your grid, put the point 3, 5. Then put the point 2, 2. Then put the point 1, negative 1. 0, negative 4. Negative 1, negative 7. Uh-oh, now I got a problem. I don't have enough space for 2, negative 10. Or even 3, negative 13. Oh, what should I do? Is this a big problem? No, not at all. Okay, don't worry about it. You should be able to get 3 or 4 points for sure. Okay, after 3 points, it's not a big deal if they don't fit on your grid. We can only make our grids so small or so big. Okay, so what I do is just forget about those ones, and then I use a ruler to make a straight line. Now, I'm not a big arrow fan. I used to be growing up, but you got to make your lines so long that they go outside of your grid. So if I had a grid, which I don't have, but pretend I did, that would be my grid. What you should see is that the lines touch the edges. That indicates that the line goes forever and ever. So don't make a short line, make it long. But how do I know what line that is? They always tell you don't name call when you're in elementary school, but I think we kind of need to name call, don't we? What name can we call this line? Exactly. It's question 1, so we could call it number 1. So I would put a number 1 right beside it. And I like to use circles as well. Or what else could I call it? Maybe y equals 3x minus 4. Okay. I like to write my name outside of my grid just to keep my grid nice and clear. Okay, but as long as it's clear, tidy and neat, no problem. How many people think they can graph a line now? Okay. So this is what I want you to do. Keep this grid here. I want you down here, try this one. Okay. I've kept ticking off one of the numbers. But I want you to write down the equation, write down your grid, and I want you to go find those points. Okay? Go ahead, find those points. Have you graphed your line, guys? Make sure you graph your line. Okay, and you could do this on the same grid if you wanted to. What's the rate of change, guys? What are we going up by? Okay, yeah, so going up here by 2s each time. Okay. Yep. The rate of the constant would be +5.
No, the
Rate of change?
yeah, constant rate of change.
It's actually -2. It's because I'm going from right to left on the graph. It's a little bit weird here. Okay.
No, like I was asking about the notes, like on the top, you wrote something on top of the graph, you know, what the plot
Oh, it's a constant rate of change. Rate of change is more because sometimes, yeah, I'm getting into too much details there. 3 and -1. 2 and 1. 1 and 3. 0 and 5. -1 and 7. -2 now. Okay, so for your line, it better have been large, going all the way through the points, okay, from one side of the grid to the other side of the grid. Any questions? Any questions? Okay, so what you can do now is you can start in the first part of your homework. We're not done with this, so keep your notes out, keep them handy, because we're going to add to them in about 10 minutes. If you look on worksheet graphing, we're looking for this worksheet. Why did Zorna pour ketchup on her brother's hand? So you need to fill out this worksheet, and on the other side, you'll see graphs that you can use to graph it. Now, my graphs are sideways. You should look at your X and Y's. Okay, so I'm going to hand this out to you. So what we were looking at earlier, we had no problem doing the math. We got nice whole numbers, okay, or integers with negative numbers. So we didn't have to worry about decimals. We didn't have to worry about fractions. It's hard for you to know exactly where to put something like 2/3. As a decimal, it's 0.6 repeating, which is 0.66666 forever. The problem is it's hard to put that on the graph. So don't get fractions. What we're going to do is figure out how we can avoid getting fractions and end up with nice, easy numbers to plot. So what we do, okay, is we choose multiples of the denominator. Let me just erase this. Okay. So we're able to do these ones nice and easily. What you want to do when you're choosing your own values is you want to choose values from -2 to +2. So if you have to make up your own values, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2. However, when you have fractions, it's not going to work. So what you want to do is choose values that get rid of them. If you have 3 times 2/3, the 3's cancel out to 1 and 1. So that's 1 times 2 divided by 1, which equals 2. What's another number that you can multiply by to cancel out the 3? 6, 9. That cancels to a 2 and a 1. So it's 2 times 2 over 1, which is 4. If you had 9, that cancels to a 3 and a 1. So 3 times 2 divided by 1, which is 6. All of them are multiples of 3. Now there's another number that you can use to get rid of fractions. It's a little bit smaller than 3 and works for everything. Not 1, 0. Right? 2/3 times 0 equals 0. And then you could plus or minus some kind of number. It'd be nice and easy. So what we're going to look at is multiples of 3. Now what's another number below 0 that would work? -3. Because that would give you -1, which would be -2. Right? -1 times 2 divided by 1. What's another one? -6. Okay? So if we have, write down this equation, y equals 2/5 x minus 3. When you're making your xy chart, what values should you choose for x? Look at your denominator 5. What should it be? 5. What else? 10. No, 15 is too high. What's lower? And what's lower? And what's lower? Now, it's helpful to read graphs in this direction. So we'd like to start with our small x values and go to our high x values. Okay, I like doing that the best because it's like you're reading a book then. Please write this down. Don't just stare at me. I know I'm good looking, but you need to write this math down and learn the math. So now you're going to substitute in, just like we did before, 2/5 times -10 minus 3. Cancel out the 10 and the 5, -2. So y equals -4 minus 3, -7. So I have left over, once I cancel, -2 times +2. 4 minus 3. Sorry, -4 minus 3, -7. Looking at the next one, y equals 2/5 times -5 minus 3. So y equals -2 minus 3, y equals -5. Should we predict the next one? Any predictions? -3? Okay, go and check now. See if it's going to be true. Okay, you think you might have a pattern? Let's see if we do. And so we can probably complete it. Okay. Could you graph those points easy enough? Absolutely. What about this one? What numbers did you pick for x so you get rid of your fraction? Write it down, please. Fill in the chart. Write down the numbers you think you should use. So I think you should use -18, -9, 0, 9, +18. Okay. Substitute in, find the first 3, see if there's a pattern. Hands up if you got this. Did I do it right? If it's It's not a fraction. Always choose values from -2 to +2. So go down and go -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. Okay. Any questions? All right. So now what you can do is the next